Welcome to Weird Games and Weirder People, a podcast about role-playing games and the weird, wonderful people behind them.
Hello Weirdos, this is Diogo Nogueira, and today's guest on Weird Games and Weirder People is none other than Will Munn from Adept Icarus, author of Arium RPG, the world-building RPG, who has worked with games such as Zorro RPG and many others. He has worked with Bahr, who is the one who introduced us. We talked a lot about his life, how he moved around the USA, how he experienced many different, lives in different time zones, how he grew religious, how is that an important part of him, how his journey through life made him deal with a lot of struggle, how fiction is something that is very important to him, and how that fiction informed the way he makes game, the way he made Arium, which is a world-building game. We talked about word games that inspired him and how his childhood with all these novels made him think about how to tell stories and how RPGs do that. And we talked about a recent work he's doing with Bahr called Science Starlight. Was a great chat. We got personal, we got weird, and we touched a lot of very interesting topics, and it got really emotional sometimes. So I hope you like it, I hope you enjoy our conversation, and let's get weird with Will Munn. Hello, Will. First of all, thank you so much for being here, and how are you doing, my friend?
Hey, Diogo. I'm doing great. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would like to ask you, how do I pronounce your last name? Will is pretty simple for me, but Will Munn or?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay,
Munn.
Will Munn. Okay, thank you. So for anyone that's out there who don't know who you are, but I also love to ask people who are here to introduce themselves and who they are, what they do, and if you can share just a small detail about yourself, maybe the way you do coffee or some weird habits you might have.
Sure. All right. Well, hey, everybody. I'm Will Munn. I run the Adept Icarus game design studio. We make tabletop RPGs primarily. And I'm, let's see. I'm old. Have a lot of children.
Old.
I have 4 children. Yeah, old, I guess, in relative terms, but let's see, what else? I've made some, a few different games. You may have heard of Arium, the Arium role-playing game, which is a world-building role-playing game. And worked on some projects like Zorro, the role-playing game. That's actually one of my favorites. That was a lot of fun. I live in Florida in the United States. Previously, I lived in, this is probably the interesting fact, the weird fact about me. I've lived in all four of the different United States time zones across the entire country. So this is my first time living in the Eastern time zone. Yeah.
Wow. And what would be your favorite region of the USA to live on?
I don't want to play favorites too much. I tend to like where I am. Maybe I have a little recency bias, so I'm happy here now. I like this, but I also enjoyed the other places where I lived too. I grew up in Oregon on the complete opposite side of the country. Yeah.
Who would be the weirdest people you lived among? Like people from Oregon, people from Florida. I hear really strange stuff about, Florida man does this, Florida man does that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, probably just by virtue of an absolute shocking number of people who live in Florida, I think Florida will probably have to take it because there are something like 30 million people who live here. It's a very populated state. The other states I've lived in, a lot less people than this one.
Oh yeah,
well, I guess Texas has a lot too, but anyway, yeah. It's pretty weird there also. especially in Austin. Weird in a good way.
Yeah. You mentioned you have four kids. How can you say pretty much how old are them? Like toddlers,
they
like
range, yeah, no toddlers. They range from between 15 years old, that's the youngest, to 25 years old.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, are they into RPG and stuff too? Did you happen to play with them? This kind of thing? Yeah.
Yeah, they have all played tabletop role-playing games at some point or another. Some of them a lot more than others, but yeah, I think they all enjoy it.
Did you make an effort for them to like it, or did it just happen? Because I know I tried to get my kid into like it, and he always enjoys very much playing it. But to start to play, it's kind of there's this resistance, electronics, displays and stuff always gets the kids to want to stay there, and that's why I'm asking. Like, did you make any effort, or was just naturally interested in this kind of stuff?
No, I definitely made an effort. I think kids have a plethora of choices, things that they can do, right? And things that they enjoy, and it is really easy, and I can relate. I mean, I played a lot of video games when I was younger.
Yeah.
Well, I don't play very many anymore, but that's a conscious choice. It's not because I don't like video games, because I do, and I think they're fun. But yeah, I think that's. I spend a lot of time with my kids. Just doing, hey, let's play, this role-playing game we played through at the beginning of sort of the COVID pandemic lockdown. We all of my kids somehow were back in my house again for a while.
That's what I was going to ask. And do they all live with you, or
no, they don't.
On?
Yeah, some of them are on their own, and some live with me. But yeah, but at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, they were all living with me, and we started a brand new 5e campaign at that time, which was kind of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it had been a while since we'd all played together. But some of them, would go to games with me. We actually used to play. We used to play games. A couple of my sons and I, when they were still teenagers, they would go and play RPGs with me and Alan Bahr at Alan Bahr's house.
Nice. Yeah. No, that's one thing.
We used to be neighbors, or nearly neighbors, at one point.
Oh, that's great. Very good examples to follow. I pray that one of my dreams is have like my kid and his friends just playing RPGs here. Like, there's a couple of friends of him that have played and like it, but it's not that common. They're really young, about 8 years old. So
we
play, and then play has to last maximum 1 hour and a half, 2 hours, because then focus starts splitting and stuff. But it's great. It's. Yeah,
I wanted to do that.
I bet it must feel really great to play as a family, everybody playing. And I don't know.
I really wanted to do that with my kids too, and it wasn't until the youngest one that I actually got a group with them and their friends all together to play. And we've done that a few times, which is it's pretty cool. I gotta admit, like, if you get the chance to do it, definitely do it.
Yeah. It's well, because with all the entertainment today, it's a lot based on electronics, so it's not very easy to connect, and having something that we have to sit down and we have to look at each other and play and share stuff. It's great. And I love playing. I play video games with my kid a lot. He loves Minecraft. I try and play with it, and we find other games, but having an opportunity to sit there and look at each other's eyes and not looking at the TV, it's something special for me. Will,
definitely.
We here in the podcast like to talk about the weird a lot, and we kind of have this positive view on weirdness, as kind of a slogan would be "Weird is the new wonderful." But I always ask guests here to if they can define what is weird for them, and why are they interested in that or not?
Yeah, that's a good question. I always, I remember when I was pretty young, I think I was still in high school, and I was acting in a high school production of a theater production of some play. There were I did a couple of those when I was in high school. And the first role I had was so minor. They gave me like maybe 2 lines or something like that in a 2-hour play. I had a couple of lines. And so very little time to be on stage during rehearsals, right? Very little to do during rehearsals, but I still had to be there. And so, and there were some other, teens that were around kind of talking about things and thinking about what they would do then and talking about things that they liked and whatnot. And I remember that's actually the first time I ever heard about the movie The Princess Bride, and I went and watched it from that. But another thing I learned about at that time that I had no idea existed was tarot cards. I had never heard of them. I'd never seen any. I didn't know what they were, right? And they're like, oh, look, we can do, a reading like a horoscope or something like that with these tarot cards, which I just thought was really fascinating. It wasn't something that I spent a lot of time doing. I didn't go out and buy tarot cards. I didn't really have money for them, right? Or anything like that. I didn't, start going and getting readings or anything. But I just thought it was really fascinating, the art on them, how they looked, just the idea that you laid them out in a different pattern and things like that. And I thought that was really cool. So that was something that was very weird to me at that point in my life. And later on, it kind of came full circle. And I said, hey, I want to learn more about this. Where did it come from? What about it is appealing to people, and why do they like it? Why am I drawn to it? What's interesting about this? So I guess that's something.
Yeah, it's something that did you try to find meaning or something hidden in it, some message or something oracular.
Yeah. And I'm not sure that exists, if it does or not, right? I think it probably depends on the person that's using it and who you talk to. I think, like many things, we can take meaning from anything that we want to invest meaning in, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so if we, look at it and say, hey, given what this is showing me, how do I apply this through my own thoughts and my own experience about my own life? I think that's an interesting exercise, as much as, going through and reading a self-help book that says, ask yourself these questions about yourself, right?
Yeah, it's a tool for self-reflection,
discovery.
And the symbols help you maybe identify some patterns and some things that are happening to you, or see there's problems in a new way. Maybe you're thinking this is bad, and even if it's not true, like the tarot card says something that is an opportunity, and maybe this helps you look at the situation in a different way and then find paths. I think I don't believe in like supernatural stuff. I try to find it interesting, but I think that it's value in kind of the philosophy as a tool, exactly as a tool for you to look at life and a way to move forward. I would say, great.
Yeah.
And how do you see this? There's very similar. There are various correlations with RPGs, with the way we use dice and cards and stuff. And then how do you see the weird in the role-playing games? And how do you explore the weird in role-playing games, in the games you make and the games you play?
Yeah. I mean, I think at the very basic level, role-playing games are all about exploring the weird, the different, right? You are taking on, as a player, you're taking on a role that isn't your everyday life, something different, something new, right? And learning about it. You're learning about it through trying to understand through the eyes of that character how they perceive the world, right?
Yeah.
So by its very nature, I think it's, it's about exploration of the weird and understanding things that you wouldn't normally try to do. In some cases, people take it more on the wish fulfillment side of things. They're like, oh, I just, I'm going to see what it would be like if I were this archetype of me that I think
that's still exploration, right? That's still exploration. It's still something different, still something that's not within their reach.
Yeah, I get kind of excited about the idea of just thinking through and seeing other viewpoints that are different from my own, right?
Yeah,
I really like that. I think that sort of expansion is amazing.
Yeah, and sitting down at a table with different people doing exactly what you do. It's not only you trying to explore a different point of view, it's everybody's showing different points of view, and you learn from each other and explore the same scenario. Maybe even you playing with the same character, same scenario, but if it's a different group, you can play in a completely different way because you're acting and reacting and going through a different dynamic, right?
Yeah.
Especially
I think there's
Go ahead.
I think there's a I remember growing up and there was this, kind of this stigma around science fiction and fantasy and, other types of genres that are separate from things that happen in the real world, right? And I don't know if this is something that you experienced as well, but definitely it was for me.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's fascinating as I've read a lot of the, quote unquote classic science fiction or fantasy and things like that, how much political commentary, how many ideas about people and philosophies and things are in them that are, I think, easy to talk about in that context, more easy to talk about in that context sometimes than it is to talk about it in sort of a, hey, this is a here and now type of scenario.
Yeah.
So I love that. And I think that's partly why building Arium Create was just something that was a lot of fun for me, because it's like, hey, let's figure out how do we make something new and weird that maybe an entire group is going to collaborate together to make, and they can turn that into something that's new and wonderful to all of them that they would never have expected to see before.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess something that from my own creation standpoint, I always thought was interesting.
Very cool. And do you have any way to transmit this, as you said, like what you said about fantasy, how they express some ideas better than, if we try to express through reality or like a modern setting or something more real, made me remember a phrase that Neil Gaiman says that fiction is telling truths through lies, and it's something great, and it's really easier for us to digest some truths through lies because where the human mind comprehends information better through stories, right? Better than just facts. And if the story has this fantasy, it's more like not so serious. We can take this and digest it like a sweet pill of medicine, It's easier than like this hard truth and kind of sipping in our subconscious, I think. Then it's just say, oh, you have to do this. This is right or this is wrong. And if it's just through like the insidious sipping through our conscious of these truths and stories, right? And does Arium has anything to do with that? How to build the scenarios and insert some truths or some messages in them, or how does Arium accomplishes that?
It's a great question. It's not explicitly built in, I don't think, but it is part of the DNA of the worlds that we ask people to make. So you go through 7 steps to create an Arium, and the first one is called Lacuni, which is talking about what doesn't exist in the world that you're creating. And I think that in and of itself
Yeah,
right,
for sure.
can inform, like it just leads people, I think, to where you want to go, right? And you start to find interesting things about, well, what would the world be like without X? What would the world be like without people who have two arms? It would be very different, right?
Yeah.
It could be, that's just a one crazy example, but it's one that a group came up with one time when we were playing, and you see things like that all the time.
Yeah, and it starts establishing themes, and since everybody's collaborating, maybe they express more personal stuff, and these are like the truths and the values of these words, instead of just being something that's more just descriptive. Oh, in this kingdom has this, has that, and everybody starts establishing principles. This makes a more solid base for these truths and this meshes or this learning possibilities in the world, right?
Right. Yeah.
Will, do you have any kind of creative ritual or procedure that you do before start writing or creating something? Like maybe you put on some music or any kind of invocation of the muse, or you have a toy that you have nearby, anything like this? Oh.
I usually do fidget with something while I'm thinking, working. I've got in my hands right now, I know this is probably, people won't see this, but I just have a rune stone, but it's wooden, but with a rune on it right now that I'm just kind of fiddling with in my hand. But I do tend to fiddle with things like that. I also have, this koosh ball that I just always have going in my hand, or things like that when I'm not actually actively typing. But in terms of a ritual for when I start working on things, I would say I always make sure I have snacks and beverages. There's got to be something, and then one of my, I guess probably my top secret weird thing, and it's not really a secret. I'm actually writing a blog post about this for the IGDN at some point soon. It's actually written, it just hasn't been published yet, but is that I have been doing some very collaborative style game design and writing the last year. And actually, we worked this way a lot when we very first started working on Arium. I contribute a lot of our success in terms of coming up with a great game to that early collaboration. But
and how does that work?
When I sit down to work on something, I have someone else with me. I mean, either in person or on Zoom or whatever, Discord, whatever you're using, right? And we both get on camera and we share screen and we start working on something, right?
So we're both working on the same game, or each one is working on their own thing? Okay.
On the same game, on the same screen, generally. Yeah, at the same time. And that has been really great. I feel like we get to some of the better ideas faster than I would have on my own, like quite a bit faster.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah, two minds like exchanging ideas.
Right. So it's very collaborative, and there's a lot of discussion and then typing as we go. And the way that, so there's one game that we've been working on since February, and the way that it works is we'll both get online. We'll open up our document, right? Use your shared document of choice, something that you can see where the other person's editing and everything, right? And we actually use one that makes it really easy to move bullet points around. So you can start just creating bullet points and making lists of things. Say, okay, we're in this section of the book. What types of things need to be in here? Start writing bullet points. And then you can organize them, and
Well,
you can.
is that a specific app that you said that you use that's easy to move around stuff, or no?
Yeah, it's called Notion. We use Notion.
Okay.
It's kind of a wiki type app, but it has a really nice
Yeah.
feature that way, and you can see the
If-
other person editing while you're editing, and
Yeah, if
those
it
kind of
helps, well, collaborative work, I think it's worth mentioning, because if maybe someone
Yeah.
want to try this, I don't know.
Yeah, I can give you a link for the show notes for that if you want. It's
Sure,
been a
yeah.
good tool. I've enjoyed it. So we talk through it. We also use it to make a little to-do list, and you can keep to-do lists in there and sort of track where things are in progress and things like that. And once things start to solidify, as we start to feel more comfortable with it, then we take pieces of it and we play test them. And we play test them together, or we play test them with other people. And then as those designs start to solidify, then we actually go back to the exact same document and start deleting the bullet points and adding paragraphs and screenshots of, like mock-up character sheet examples and things like that, and just transform the document into an actual draft of the game.
Nice. So use it, start making, like, taking notes of the game, like you would do like in a notebook, or you do it together. As you develop, you start taking those notes, those bullet points, and expanding into paragraphs, like filling the bones with meat and muscles and stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
Very nice. Yeah. What I do, I usually write the table of contents of the book, like everything I want to have and stuff, and then I'll start filling. I never tried to do this working. I work with some people in like this corrupted wave of Google Docs, everybody, and like writing, but like doing this every day, I don't know if I'm very good at, doing group work like this. But for this discussion, I think it's very great. I was even have this idea that meetings, have a group of creators like meet maybe weekly or bi-weekly to just discuss, hey, what are you doing? How are we?
I would love that.
To push each other to say, what have you done? Wow, what's happening? Maybe just to support one another, like a support group. That could be cool, and everybody try to check with one another to motivate one another. That's something that could work.
I've really loved experiences I've had like that as well. I think those are really fantastic. It is, though. It's very strange. It's a very strange way to a lot of people to write a book, to have two people working on the same thing at the same time.
You have to have really good synergy with someone, or it doesn't work with anyone, right? It doesn't just work with someone you have, some kind of synergy, right? Or have you tried to work like this with other people and it didn't quite work, or? You don't have to say any names or anything. Just say if that works with everybody, or it doesn't, or it worked with everybody who tried it worked. Or
I think there are people who would just opt out and say, no, I don't want to work that way. And I think for them, it won't work that way.
Yeah.
But I think if people are willing to try it and have an open mind and work through the different patterns and things that you have to learn in order to become good at it, I think anybody can do it.
That's probably true. It's just probably hard to like schedule. Do you always work like this, or do you have some meetings that you work together, or like every day you sit down with that person, so you have to have like the same schedule or everything?
Good question. So the way that it's been working for the projects I'm working on like this, we usually meet for a minimum of 2 hours a week, but sometimes for 4 or 6 or maybe even 8 sometimes, but not every day, not all day. right?
But you do
Because I
work on
think
the game in between those meetings, right? Or you just work on the game on those meetings?
working on the game in between those meetings is often playtesting or,
Okay.
looking at sourcing art, other types of indie publisher type activities, right? Thinking about, what will a Kickstarter look like, doing research on what
Okay.
kinds of components I can add or
But
things
not
like that.
actually writing or
Actually,
make
writing is
anything. No.
just FaceTime. Yep.
Okay. I see.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. And how long does it usually take to get a game going this way, like writing and finishing and then everything?
Yeah. Well, I think it depends on how big the game is, right?
Yeah,
It
of
depends
course.
on, and how complicated it is. So one game I'm doing this way is a solo game. And I would say we've been working on it for about 9 months, spending about 2 hours a week for 9 months. And it'll be the next one that's ready here coming up before too long. So we're actually in the phase now where we're just starting to move into the draft mode, but it's not a super long book. It'll probably be, like 50 pages or something, right?
Yeah.
And so we'll zoom through that pretty quickly, and then it'll be ready to maybe send it out to some people who want to play test a solo game by themselves and see if the words we wrote make sense to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, then once that's done, it'll go to the next step.
And how do you usually get playtesters? Do you make an announcement, or do you have usually some friends that do this with you? How does that work for you?
Yeah, initial playtesters are usually people that we know, right? That's the easiest way to do it, I think. But then I go to Discord, because we have a Discord for Adept Icarus, and we'll ask for volunteers there, or maybe social media even, potentially.
Yeah.
I'm
asking that because people are already asking how do I get playtesters, and yeah, probably Adept Icarus. Well, you're already winning designer, so you have more people to check out your games. But how would you do that in the early days? How was your approach to getting playtesters? I remember what I did was I would just put the games basically for free on a website, and people would play the game. So
yeah, it was a lot of me running games for friends or for people who I could connive into playing, or I would go to a convention and I would just try and find some people and play. I did that many times with Arium, where I would just grab whoever I could find and say, let's play a game, and I would play test it with them.
Right? Yeah, it's probably it's just work. You have to go out there and say, hey, I have the game, go to online conventions, go to these events people have. Here in Brazil, there's always this WhatsApp groups of role-playing games from this city, and then people are always recruiting, even to play on Zoom or anything. So that's probably the best place to get playtesters, although it's hard because people won't play.
Right.
People want to play D&D.
Show up, right? They want to play D&D. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Will, are you able to need to find like any main sources of inspirations for the work, for the games and the work that you do? I always talk about, for me, pop culture from my youth, whether it be comics, cartoons, and even some literature and stuff. Do you have anything that really inspires you that you can identify more easily?
Yeah, I mean, I think early on it was a lot of the novels that I read as a kid. There's can I tell a weird story?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So I was kind of I don't know. I had a mother who was kind of protective. When I went outside. I grew up in a place that was very cold in the winter, a lot of snow, a lot of wind, and I'd go outside as a kid, and I'd end up catching, some sort of congestion, sickness, cough, that type of thing. And so my there's a joke about the kid that gets his ears stuffed with cotton balls before he goes outside, so he doesn't get, the wind in his ears or whatever. Well, that was me, right? And when I was in high school, I met a new friend one time, and he characterized me as that kid when he met my mother one time, and I was like, how did you know? It's exactly true. It's exactly true. But the short story of that is because I kind of spent a lot of time sick. I read a lot of novels. I didn't go outside in the wintertime a lot, right? Read lots and lots of novels. And
Any ones
before
that
I was
made
old enough,
particularly impression in your favorite authors or something?
Yeah, for sure. There's quite a few, I would say, but again, I've always enjoyed kind of the classic fantasy and sci-fi literature, which is good stuff. I've read a lot of it more than once. I just reread Dune recently, which is still a favorite of mine. So, and that is sort of the quintessential weird sci-fi book in a lot of ways, I feel like.
Yeah.
I wanted to write my own novel that would be, could be in some small way comparable to Dune, and that's actually what I was doing, what I was trying to do when I first started writing for role-playing games. As I was trying to write that novel and failing, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, well, you there's a saying that we always find our path or style through our failings. There's this person on the show, like an artist, that a comedian like always tries to be the next Letterman or something. They fail and then find themselves to what you are, and you find. Were happy to find your creative outlet as an RPG writer? Are you happy about this? And
oh, are you kidding? Absolutely. Yeah. I love it. It's for me, I think it's so much better than writing a novel. Maybe one day I'll try and write one again, but I love writing RPGs. Love it.
Yeah, I confess I read about writing fiction a lot, and then I think that can also help inform the way we recreate stuff for our games, because if we understand fiction, we can understand the elements, and we can chop them apart and spread them in our settings and stuff recreate. Even something as Arium that is for you to build. If you understand the fiction, you can chop it off and build tables and build tools to make that. But yeah, I'm fascinated about writing, and I made some comics, I draw, and what I'm going to ask you is that, are you curious or any other kind of art form that you would like to try? I joke about that I'm a public servant that dreams to be an RPG writer, and now that I'm an RPG writer, I'm dreaming about being a comedian. What other kind of, if you could do any other kind of art form, what would it be?
All of them. Probably all of them. Yeah. It's a problem. And I think, it's why I am where I am in life in some ways, because I just really enjoy a lot of things, and it's hard to narrow it down. And so I find myself with a tiny amount of knowledge in a lot of places, right? And not a lot of deep knowledge in a lot of places, a couple, right? But
that's the game designer. That's the game designer way of doing things. Yeah. Because we explore everything that we can turn anything into a game, So
yeah.
And
I have always
sorry,
I was just gonna say I have always loved music, and I think I took a lot of piano lessons when I was a kid and sang a lot. So I think if I had to pick one, it would probably be music, but I don't think I'm qualified or in any way able to do that.
Yeah, well, I'm not a comedian yet, but I'm doing
Yeah.
courses and stuff, and I'm writing
Ah,
jokes and everything. But yeah, uh,
nice.
but about music and in piano, would you be as a musician? Would you imagine be like a piano player, or what about music? What's do you have any kind of favorite kind of music, favorite band or anything?
Um, I like a pretty wide variety of music, as I guess you might expect from some of the other things that I
Yeah.
said. I can listen
What
to just
any
about
particular
anything
favorites? Any
in the
particular favorites
right
or no?
circumstance. Yeah, I mean, I like, I don't know, I guess I like some music from the 90s quite a lot. But I listen to current stuff too. When I work, if I am working solo, I will usually have something without vocals playing in the background. Um, Depending on what I'm doing, it might have like a pretty consistent beat, or it might not. It just kind of depends on what I'm working on. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm nowadays if I'm reading or writing or doing my day job, I put
Hmm.
some lo-fi or some beats or some like this
Hmm.
neuro kind of
Yeah.
music to help you concentrate and stuff. And I
Yeah,
think
I
it
like that.
helps. At least for
Hmm.
reading, I've noticed it helps me concentrate a lot more. Uh,
Hmm.
and I've already paid for it, so I'm gonna use it anyway. So
That's right.
yeah.
Have you ever listened to Handel's water music? Do you know the story behind that?
No,
Uh,
Handel's water music.
yeah, it's classical music composed by, boy, I'm gonna butcher the name, and this is going out public, but I think his name, oh, is it Frederick Handel? Oh no, I can't remember.
Well, yeah,
Anyway,
it's
a
okay.
classical
Yeah.
composer. Yeah, and he was commissioned by a king to compose music that would help the king concentrate. And
Wow.
Handel's water music is the output of that. And there have been studies done on Handel's water music that show that it is that people retain more information, that they understand it better when they're listening to that music while they study.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
music, it's very fascinating. There's various use and can really affect your minds. And there's even, research about psychedelic effects of music, and drum
Hmm.
rhythms and this kind of stuff. And yeah, I think one day that we can actually maybe unlock this understanding of this. It can be used for maybe a lot of even therapies or maybe even entertainment, maybe to see stuff. I don't know, maybe like a sound scape for RPGs that gets you into this
Hmm.
fantasy state. It would be fun. I don't know. Who knows in the
Well, it's
future?
obvious that music can evoke emotion, right? We
Yeah.
know that.
Do you play
Yeah.
with music?
A
I always
little.
want to, but I always forget, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I noodle around a little, but not very much. Yeah.
yeah. I've made a playlist for Promo Quest and had some music there, and sometimes I remember to use it, but most of the time or just get to play.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
I
it's
have
something that
a really awesome composer that I'm working with on a future project that I'm gonna include some tracks
nice, nice.
in one of the games that we're gonna release. So yeah, I love
Uh,
music.
Any surprise you can reveal for us? Any names or?
Uh Probably not. No, not at this
Okay.
point. But yeah.
Yeah, sure. Uh, do you have any particular creator, be it from RPGs or any kind of different art that inspires you or serves you as a model for how you conduct your projects or you conduct in the scene or anything like this?
Yeah. Um, well, I don't think I would have gotten into creating RPGs at all if I hadn't had that connection to Alan Bahr. I think, he's very inspiring in several ways to me. But I also, from a design standpoint, there are a lot of game designers out there who I really admire. And I think you can learn something from just about anybody's work, honestly.
For sure. Yeah.
Right? I mean, even if it's learning about what you don't like in your own
exactly.
games, right? Yeah.
Because maybe they explore something that you didn't need to explore to see. Yeah, I don't like this. They explored this for me, and it's not for me. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And Alan, it's a fantastic person. I consider him a mentor too. I learned a lot from him from the time I worked with him, and a great person to use as a model, not only for the stuff that he makes, but how he portrays himself in the community too. So great choice, by the way.
Yeah.
Will, are you working on a particular project that if you can review anything about it, and if you can, what would be like the weirdest thing you can share with us about that project? You mentioned you have something that might be going to crowdfunding in December.
I do. And it's weird in a couple of ways, I guess. So I've been working with Alan Bahr, actually, strange enough, on a solo RPG called Cyan Starlight. It's informed a lot by Alan's, and he's very public about his mental illness and his struggle with bipolar disease. It's informed very heavily by his struggle with bipolar disease or disorder, and it's my first time actually being a publisher and not the creator of something, and it's also my first time as credited as the editor of a book. So I'm a little nervous about that. Like, did we catch all the things in it? And I think we did, but it's very different. But Cyan Starlight the subtitle is it's a lonely sci-fi role-playing game. And it's really inspired by a lot of those classic sci-fi things, like by Foundation. And just to tell you a little bit about how it kicks off, you are the last survivor of humanity. You've awoken either from stasis or deep sleep and find yourself alone with only your ship and gear to provide for you. That's how the game starts out.
No.
There's nobody else. And there's a strange blue starlight encompassing the entire galaxy universe.
Let's see. Wow.
So
that's it sets an image already. I think one thing I'm curious, you said it's informed by Alan's issues with his mental illness, bipolar disorder. Can you say anything about how the game explored something of the themes in the game, or how this informs the game?
Yeah, it would probably be better for him to do that, to be 100% honest, but I'll give you a little bit of my thought on it. But I think it's partly that in some ways the illness itself is
isolating,
somewhat distancing, right? It's isolating. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's definitely a part of it.
For sure. I get it. Hello, weirdos. This is Diogo Nogueira, and I'm back with a word from our sponsors. Me. I just released a new game called Cosmosaurus, in which you play a dinosaur space ranger who protects the galaxy from evil threats such as slime bankers, undead pirates, and Cosmosaurus from a void dimension.
It's a game with a rules light system inspired by Forged in the Dark and Lasers and Feelings. It comes with a bunch of tables for you to generate content for it. If you know my games, they're really easy to play and they have tools to help you improvise and play with low prep. It's an ideal game for one-shots, short campaigns, and introducing new people to the hobby, and it's a really perfect family game. I play with my kids all the time. It's a game inspired by Saturday morning cartoons. It's really well illustrated by Lucas Kowalski from Poland, and with a great layout by Guilherme Gontijo. It's a really fun game. You should check it out on Drive-Thru-RPG, itch.io, or exclusively in print on exaltedfurniture.com. I have many other games there, check them out. All the links are in the show notes, so click there. And let's get back to Weird with our chat. Will, what would you consider the weirdest thing about your work and the things that you do at Adept Icarus, and how do you like that, and how do you explore and try to bring this wonderful weirdness to all the games you make there? I don't know what yeah.
I'm at a little bit of a loss. Go ahead.
Yeah. What I mean is, it's the weirdest. What is the thing that makes Adept Icarus games Adept Icarus, and what is the weird thing that make them wonderful, and then you try to inject in all the work that you do there? That's what I would like to.
I think. Well, I mean, when I came up with Adept Icarus, this is something that is a little bit of my own neurodivergence, right? Which is, I tend to push the boundaries on things sometimes. I do things that, when I was younger, you would say probably I pushed the boundaries too far and did things that, probably someone who was a little more measured, a little more in control of themselves wouldn't do, right? And made some choices about, I got married when I was 19, and
Married when I was 19. Married.
Yeah, married when I was 19, and I had, my first child by the time I was 20. And so I was really young, and I'd made spur of the moment decisions sometimes that probably weren't the best. But in some cases, I think that taught me, like, what can I do and how much can I push things to sort of see what might still be a good idea. It's a weird way to say it, I guess, but Adept Icarus in some ways is about just seeing what can be made, right? And how close can we get to the sun without our wings melting, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess that's kind of the idea behind it. Pushing the boundary, trying to figure out where that is, and helping people tell the stories that need to be told. And that's definitely what piqued my interest most about Cyan Starlight. I think, the story of bipolar disease, mental disorders in general, bipolar disorder or mental illness in general needs to be told. We should have a better understanding of it as citizens of the world, right? Because we live with our friends and families and companions here, and we need to have some empathy, and we need to understand as much as we can where they're coming from and what that feels like in order to be able to treat them well.
Yeah. And as you said, RPGs is a great vessel for exploration of the weird and the different, and then for most of us, that's how it is. And I think Cyan Starlight can help bring a new light, and then maybe even give ideas for other people that have other stories to tell, with their own struggles to explore and see and how to do that. I myself started thinking about how to maybe express some of the things I go through and have ideas, and I'm excited to see Alan exploring this in his work. I'm excited for the Kickstarter, and for sure I will be there supporting both of you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Will, what did you say was the weirdest RPG or game you ever played, and what was the favorite part for you of that game? Looking around.
Looking at my bookshelf now. I should have known this was coming. I should have known.
Yeah.
Wow.
It can be something recent. It doesn't necessarily has to be a game per se, but it can be a game session or an experience you had that was really something memorable.
Yeah. I'm like a deer in the headlights right now. I'm just let's see. You know, one of the coolest, neatest, weird games that I have had the chance to happen across is actually Zhengsha. I think I'm pronouncing that right. By Banana Chen and Senfeng Lim. Such a neat concept. It's just a gorgeous game too. Really, really beautiful. But you are owners of a family business, family restaurant, as Chinese immigrants in the United States, and you also, you're busy like trying to keep business up, and you also happen to have an infestation of Zhengsha, which are sort of like, I hope I don't get this totally wrong, but like Chinese vampires kind of, that come out at night that you have to fight off and deal with. And it's strange and it's wonderful. Very, very, very cool.
Yeah, it's a new way of seeing, Monster Hunter, vampires with a new culture, and it's something that people can relate and see. Family owning a restaurant, and it's made by the people that has some connection to this, and they have their own views. It's authentic. It's really a fantastic game for sure. Yeah,
I love that, and I love that it's. It also kind of has this neat thing where I think Banana's kind of original background in games comes from LARPing, and Senfeng Lim's comes from board games, and they kind of do a really cool job of taking some of each of their strengths to make this creative and unique game. So really cool.
Yeah, and actually, I'm happy to see how RPGs are learning a lot for board games, because they have a really great understanding of how to present rules and in a concise way. And I think we can learn a lot from board games. Unfortunately, I don't know a lot about LARPs, but it's probably something I would need to check out for sure. But yeah. Well, Will. Now is the time I start asking a little more personal questions about the weird and etc. And I started by asking, how has 2023 been for you? Has it been a weird year, and how has it been treating you, Will?
It has been a little bit of a weird year. I lost my day job at the end of 2022, and so I started 2023. I started 2023 on a cruise ship, which had been planned before I lost my job. And so I was on a cruise ship with my family at the beginning of the year. And then I came home and I sort of set the task of, hey, I really need to find a new, additional source of income. And so I worked hard on that. And as it started to look promising, I started to spend a lot of that time I had devoted to that work and started turning it back into Adept Icarus and into my game design work, which really is kind of the genesis of this, the fact that I have like 4 games in progress right now, because I started working with a couple of different people, and we would meet 1 time a week or maybe 2 times a week, working in this collaborative way that I described earlier. And in some ways, I'm really thankful I lost that job, because I don't know if I would have had the time and gotten where I got to on some of these projects without it.
It's really weird how that happens, right?
Yeah,
Some changes happen when we regret it so much because it's changing and we're losing something. It happened something to me in my work that not that I lost the job, but that I lost the station that I had, and my cut was my pay was cut in 25%. I have to change all my schedule, and I really regret it. But it opened my time for game design and stuff, and to be happy. We lose something, but we I don't know, to go with the flow. Sometimes we find a better spot, but it's hard to say that, right? Because not maybe it will not work for everybody.
It doesn't always feel good at the moment, right?
Yeah.
No, it worked out though, I think. And a couple of these ideas, have been percolating for years, like, if you're anything like me, I don't know, I keep just this huge list of game ideas.
Yes.
Enormous. Right?
Yes.
And the ones that actually get made are a much, much smaller list.
Yeah.
But hopefully they're the best ones. I don't know.
Well, it's the ones, probably the ones you're more excited at that moment. So it's the ones we're more capable to give our fullest attention, I would say. So yeah, they are the best because they're the ones we are capable to finish.
Right.
Yeah. The thing that you said about we're talking about the event that happened, we are happy afterwards, and how that's made you realize this. I heard a phrase this week that's made a really good impression for me. It's saying that disposition is more important than position. So you, depending on where you are, depending on how you feel, you're able to accept your fate. That's something that I care about, that amor fati, which is loving, accepting where you are and trying to make the best of it. So that's the disposition thing. Sometimes it's more important than having the greatest job or won an award or something, because these things are only things that you have, but not things that you are. But if disposition is something that you are, it's way more permanent. I think.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
Well, going on, asking about now more particular root experiences that you might have had, especially in the beginning. Now asking about any kind of mind-altering experiences. Have you ever have any great experience with meditation or hypnosis or anything like this?
I have not been hypnotized to my knowledge.
Yeah.
I have tried meditation and prayer, and some of those things have been interesting and good. I grew up a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. My family were members of the church, and I left more or less when I was in my teens, and started, kind of rebelling, I guess, doing whatever I thought was interesting, and I got into a bunch of trouble, and that sort of thing. And so I had an opportunity when I was quite a lot younger to you say mind altering, I definitely did a few things kind of like that at one point or
Yeah.
another.
Yeah. I'm
I
gonna ask about this too, if you're comfortable
are
about
you?
talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it's something I discovered recently and has helped me. And I don't know
Yeah.
if you want to talk about this. I didn't use
We
as a young
can. I
one.
mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if it helped me or not. I definitely saw some things that I don't think I would have ever considered
Yeah.
otherwise, and maybe that makes
Informed
me.
in some way. I don't know. Did it
Yeah,
inform you
yeah,
in any way or affect
yeah.
you?
Maybe, very possibly. I did eventually. I ran into some issues with some of those habits that I had formed during that time, and
Yeah,
had
of
to kind
course.
of change my lifestyle quite a bit, and so it's very different now from how it was then. But I did definitely learn things from that. Yeah.
Can you tell anything about those? Any particular experience that you might have had? Anything you saw and made any kind of pact, even if it's something funny that you always
Yeah.
remember, or some game
No, I mean,
idea you
I
might
think
have
in
had?
some case you're doing some of those things, and it can give you a perspective that feels more
Yes,
childlike, and more looking at the world the way you do when you're a child, I think, and
it's
seeing the wonder in it.
more pure. Yeah, more
Right.
unbiased, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a really interesting perspective to have when you're older, because I think you can lose some of that. And
Yes.
so having that memory in my adult lifetime is, um, I think that does inform some things. It's interesting. I don't know if I'm not going on the record to say I recommend it, right? Because I don't know if I do, but those were the experiences I had, and for better or worse, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mean about recommending. I mean, there
Yeah.
is research today, and there is ways to do it safely, but you have to do the
Which I think is
research.
probably much better than what I did. Yeah.
Yeah. But if anyone that thinks about it, they have to do the research and follow the safety procedures, because there's some people that might not be ideal to even try. So do the research.
Right.
There's a lot of documentaries, there are a lot of studies out there. And what I
Hmm.
did, I took microdose of psilocybin mushrooms
Hmm.
to do with anxiety. I was having a lot of problems with anxiety, and that's how I
Hmm.
got started in this world and watched some
And
other
that's helped.
documentaries. Yeah, and helped
That's
me
amazing.
a
I
lot.
love it.
And yeah, of course, I tried higher doses after that, and helped me in other ways too. But always like in a safe space. I'm not like going out there and then just
Hmm.
like and not doing this like every week and something. It's that's something I talked to some other friend. That's actually it's kind of a trip. You only do this like every a few months or anything like this, and with calm, with time, and with people around you that you feel safer, you know,
Hmm.
and helped
Yeah, I think
me.
the wrong environment can
Yeah,
be very, very destructive for that kind
yeah,
of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's as they say, it's sets and settings, depending on the set you and the where you are. So if it's a
Hmm.
bad place, you can have a bad trip or anything like this.
Yeah,
But
sure.
it helped me get more in touch with myself, accept some of stuff that I was going through,
Oh,
and
that's great.
understanding some of things that in my childhood that affect me today. Because yeah, I've been going through this journey since my kid was diagnosed with ASD, and now I have been diagnosed with that too, and just exploring things from my past, my childhood, you know, uh, understanding how I became the weirdo that I am today,
Yeah.
and yeah. And I know it kind of helps me this child that thing that you said, the childlike perspective. Uh,
Right.
yeah, it makes you see the world in like new colors. You've feel more alive,
Hmm.
and grounded, because sometimes, especially with anxiety, it's something that I suffer with. I always get too, lightheaded, always in my head, always thinking. I'm not feeling my
Hmm.
body. I'm not here. I'm only this cloud of thoughts, like puppeting this meat bag, and psychedelics, or even CBD and cannabis helps
Hmm.
you ground and feel a little bit less anxious. I don't know. But it's always something to do with research and care. It's not, go there and try everything. It's not about this, but it's,
No, I think for the use of medical purposes, right, we have to use what is on the planet, right, and figure out what makes the most sense and for who and when, right?
Yeah, but I forgot about what I was saying, but something you said about the exploration that games allow, and then what we do as we live the reality, the experience is also like this. It's a very limited model for our senses. And sometimes even those experiences that alter our senses help us see that reality also has, some different ways to see it. You connect some people. Sometimes you make some understanding. That very thing that people say that go through psychedelic experience about seeing how they're connected to everything, how everybody is one thing. It's very similar to experience people having like deep meditation, or when astronauts, leave the Earth and see Earth just a small blue space and see how everything is so little. It's again about that perspective that you said. It just something that changes our perspective and maybe helps us understand this nonsense thing that we call life, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. Did you have any other weird experiences besides psychedelics or dreams and meditations? Maybe any kind of near-death experiences or like night terrors or anything that it's weird that you felt that's made an impact on you?
I think probably the thing that was most impacting was I was struggling with addiction, right? That was a problem for me, like to the point where it impacted my life negatively, right? And through, the sort of prayer and meditation, that it was a big ability for me to help overcome that, right? That challenge. And so
do you practice this until today, or?
I do, yeah.
Meditation,
yeah. And so now when I feel the pull of addiction, right, because it's still there, never completely goes away, right? That helps center me and bring me back, right?
That's great. And it's very useful for that too. It's in some ways has similar connects you and helps you stay grounded. At least for me, when I had anxiety, I attacked it in every way. I tried meditation. I exercise a lot more now. I didn't do that, and it also helps me.
I need to do that.
Yeah.
But I'm like many years sober at this point. So many.
Congratulations, my friend.
Yeah. Thank you.
And now you mentioned about how you grew in a religious environment and how you grew apart from it. But do you have any still connection with spirituality, religion, or even any kind of philosophy that helps you guide you through life and decision making and stuff?
Yeah, I actually did. Like I mentioned, I grew apart from the church, but I actually did go back. And in many ways, there are, I think, good things that can come from that. I think you have to be, I think there's, in the environment that we have today, there are a lot of people who spew hate and call it Christianity. And I'm not about that under any circumstance. I think it's wrong. And if it's right, I don't want to be right. So, but yeah. Yep.
And how has the church or your religion helped you, in a daily basis? How does that affect you in your day-to-day life, or even does that affect you in your work in any way? Or
I don't know if it impacts my work a whole lot, other than the fact that I try and well, the collaborative
the
nature of Arium, I
values,
think, is a great
maybe,
example, right?
yeah, the values or the
So
way you treat people, or does that
the
affect
values
you?
of treating people
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
kindness, right? Those sorts of things for sure. And yeah, well, I do believe in those teachings at their core, absolutely, right? I think that being kind to others and
yeah,
having that be the sort of the number one rule for how you operate in the world is a good one, right?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, and Will, talking about now more Winscombe and light weird things. Do you believe anything supernatural, be it
Hmm.
aliens, ghosts, cryptics, or any
Um,
conspiracy weird theory or something?
I think I would be very surprised if there isn't other life in the universe, right? I would be very surprised. But
Have you
have they
ever
been
seen a
here?
UFO or anything?
I haven't. No, I haven't. I wish I had. I think that would be really cool. Yeah. I think if I don't know if they've been here or not, right? That's a different story. Um, and I think it's really interesting, like some of the testimonies in Congress and things like that about, the objects and things
Yeah,
that pilots have seen and whatnot. So that's been really interesting to follow. But I don't have any proof of anything strange or supernatural, no cryptids,
no ghosts or
no
anything. No.
ghosts. No, I do love ghost stories though. That's honestly one of my favorite things. Um, but yeah,
Did you did you used to play those kids playing like the Ouija board, or those weird like let's play with ghosts and see what happens as a kid?
mm,
Or I didn't,
yeah,
because
yeah,
I was so afraid.
yeah.
I didn't mess with this stuff.
Yeah,
Nowadays I
I
would,
did
but
a
I
little
was,
and
yeah,
I was pretty scared, I got to admit, right?
yeah.
But I think I don't know. We used to play a game called Gray Ghost when I was a kid, which is sort of like hide and seek, if you're familiar with that game
Yeah, yeah.
from English, but kind of like that. So I think that's one thing, and then I had these cousins that were just a little bit older than me, and they would play like ghost mystery games with me and stuff when I was a kid that I just loved. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, I don't know. I always have a soft spot for ghost stories for sure.
Yeah.
I've
Do you
been
have
watching
any particular
like
one that you like a lot, or no?
oh I've been rewatching oh my gosh, now I'm gonna get the name mixed up because it's so close to a
Is
board
it
game
new
name.
or old?
It's not super new. Haunting of Hill House. It's probably like 4 or 5 years old on Netflix. I enjoyed that a lot. It's a really fun sort of
Yeah, I
short
heard good
series.
things about it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Did you
yeah,
like
I like
the
that.
that American Horror Stories, or no?
I haven't watched a lot of that. I did watch a lot of Supernatural at one point. The first season of Supernatural is very, very cryptid ghost story oriented, and
Oh
that's
yeah,
really fun. I like that.
yeah,
Later on, it becomes it's a little more slapstick, a little more fun, which is good
yeah,
too, but it's not really
yeah,
scary anymore. So the first season's kind of scary, and that was fun. So I like, that sort of thing. Um, but generally horror isn't actually it's not like my jam, but I do like ghost stories a lot. Yeah.
yeah. uh, if you could have any superpower, what would you choose to have, and what would be the first thing you would do with it?
Teleportation, hands down. Yeah.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
would you do with it? Like the first thing?
I could go see everything, everyone, everything. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
it's a popcorn run. Go, yeah, yeah. But and now like a philosophical question: how would you do with knowing that every time you teleport, you cease to exist and you appear as a new you? Is that still you
Uh,
or no?
would I have the same memories?
I don't know. Will
Yeah.
you? But yeah, teleportation is to be everywhere. Like, do you have any problems with staying in traffic? Is there a lot of traffic in where you live, or no?
It's not super bad here. There's traffic for sure. So I think part of it is just, being able to get where you want to go to when you want to be there, right? But also
Yeah,
to be able to see the world, to,
yeah.
visit friends from wherever they may be. I love that idea a lot. I don't know. I just always
Is there any place you'd
it's
like to visit that you haven't yet? That would you like to go?
yeah, there's a lot of places I'd like to visit that I haven't.
Anyone in
uh
particular?
uh well, for me, I think one of the places I'm most interested in visiting personally that I haven't visited, I'll give you two. So,
Okay.
Finland is my grandmother was from Finland, and so I would like to visit Finland someday
Yeah.
and see what that's like. But I don't really like cold places. I live in Florida, Jogo. That's why, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to live in a cold place. So
Oh, but it's
I would
only
like to
visiting.
visit.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
visit would be great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I actually really, really would love to spend some time in sort of south Southeast Asia, India, that sort of area, and see that part of the world because it's just very far from here, I feel like, and I'd love to spend and learn more about it.
Yeah, and we don't see we're starting seeing more now, and
Yeah.
it's great to see like especially in RPG we see RPGC and stuff. But for a
Yeah.
while, the vision we had from like cultures from Asia would be China, the Chinese
All China
or
and Japan.
Japanese
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
Korea sometimes, and
Right.
but yeah, we haven't heard it. Sometimes India because it was like the biggest one, but like a lot of other places, I
Yeah.
was just starting to learn a little more in like the last
Hmm.
4 to 5 years, and they have a lot of stories, a lot of great culture and the mythology, the fantasy stuff they're
Hmm.
making for RPGs. It's like fantastic. So yeah,
Yeah.
for
I
sure.
have a teammate who I used to work with. I'll call him a friend for sure, who grew up in Malaysia and immigrated to the United States, and after becoming an adult, and just had some really wonderful conversations with them about their childhood and what it was like and things like that. So it's just it's 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 a fascinating part of the world, I think, that doesn't get a spotlight sometimes. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Will, if you could get any weird thing from fiction or from your games, from sci-fi, from anything you can imagine and make it real in our world, any weird thing, uh, what would you choose to be and why? It could be creatures, or power, or a faction, or a
Hmm,
place.
that's really interesting. Huh, I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe this is another weird thing about me. I really love so many things about fiction and games and the vast array of things that we can
It's hard for you to
explore
pick
and learn.
favorites, right?
It's hard to pick a favorite, but
Uh,
honestly, I kind of like where I live and what life is like in some ways now,
yeah,
so I can explore those things. But I think if I were to pick like a direction, I would say a little more utopian than we have today, right? Like, because some of the world is,
yeah.
a lot of the world is pretty scary, and for a lot of people, and so I would say better, something better, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't know, the ability for, everyone to have the food and medicine that they need. If I were to really get serious and pick something like that, that'd be where I'd go immediately, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that
Something
probably
that's
wasn't the direction you
easy.
were headed, but
No, that's great, but that's
yeah,
something it speaks about you. It speaks about how you said you were raised and people really could took care of you very well. Like your mother was super protective, and you're very protective of people. You have a religious upbringing. You talk about being kind, and you talk about building stuff together. And then this vision, like you want teleportation to see places and see people you love, and it makes perfect sense to think about making something possible to everybody, having access to cheap food, accessible water, food, and then medicine, and being able to live comfortable. And it's something that I really wish we could go to, and I hope we arrive there, because I really don't see any other solution for the future we have, and because with automation and everything, people won't have jobs and won't have money. But if people don't have money, how are they're gonna buy the stuff that the rich are producing? So it makes no sense. People will have to have money without jobs someday, because otherwise, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So yeah. I hope we will arrive there someday.
Me too.
Yeah. Will, those were the questions I had for you. We had some really great talks, and we spread some ideas, and I'm really thankful to be here. Do you have any message for the weirdos out there that are listening to us?
Well, I mean, I could get back on my soapbox and say world building is play, but I think the best thing I can say is just keep being weird, keep bringing new and interesting things into the world, right?
Yeah, that's a great idea. And in focusing on, we could have talked about a little bit about how world building is playing and how we can construct things together. And that's actually one of my favorite parts of being a GM. It's building things using the games that help me build things, because it transforms otherwise very monotonous and laborious part of GMing into play, and having other people to play with and exchange ideas with. It's great, and that's why Arium is an award-winning role-playing game. So yeah.
Well, thanks, Sugar.
Thank you, Will Munn, for being here. And remember, everybody, keep it weird. Thank you for listening to Weird Games and Weirder People. If you'd like to keep up with the show, please subscribe to be notified when we release new episodes. If you'd like to support us, please leave a review or head on to code-fi.com/WGNWP. See you next time, and remember, weird is the new wonderful.